Welcome back to another episode of the Web3 Quick Buy podcast, the podcast where we jam to the latest bits in the decentralized world and chat with some of the brilliant minds in the Web3 industry. If you are in the Web3 space, you are aware that finding your footing in the fast-moving world of Web3 can seem daunting, especially for creatives, job seekers, and entrepreneurs looking to build their brands. But guess what? My guest today on the show is working to change that. I'm excited, super excited to welcome a pioneering leader in the cryptocurrency space today. Our guest today has over 5 years of experience across key regions like Asia and the Americas. And she currently serves as Chief Evangelist Officer of Joba Network, a Web3 platform empowering visibility and opportunity for talent in crypto. My guest was one of few female executives in Japanese cryptocurrency exchanges, leading teams in business development, partnerships, and product and marketing. A drive led her to launch Joba Network, a startup that connects creators, builders, and innovators in Web3. So guys, this is the time where I introduce my guest to you. So ladies and gentlemen, meet Marisa. Hi Marisa, it's so great to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. And, nice to meet all those who are listening to the show.
Awesome. So, with hiring and publicity operating differently in Web3 compared to traditional industries, we know it can be tough to figure out where to start and how to get on the radar of potential employers or collaborators. And so, dear listeners, today on the show, we are going to discuss the future of work in Web3 and how hiring talent in Web3 compares to hiring in traditional industries. And also on the show today, we'll also explore how concepts like universal identities and credentials change the way we discover and evaluate talent, and also what new opportunities arise when you can directly control and display your skills. But before we dive right in, we would like to ask Marisa, how did you first get introduced to Web3 and what inspired you to start a company in this space?
Yeah, so my journey in Web3 actually started while I was at university. So while I was in university, I had a few friends in the computer science department, and they were actually mining Ethereum in their dorm room at the University of Texas. They were then talking to me and saying, Ethereum's going to change the world, and cryptocurrency, blockchain technology is going to change the world, and that really inspired me. So I got really interested in what was this new thing that they were all excited about, and I started diving into it myself. I decided to do a research paper about the implementation of blockchain in Japan. And, shortly after graduation, that drove me to, see what, crypto Web3, Bitcoin back then was all about, starting in Tokyo. So that's kind of what got me intrigued, was this new technology that could change the world. And then in terms of starting my own company, after so much experience working in the space at a cryptocurrency exchange to consulting and advising, I thought that a platform like Joba, what I'm building, would be really useful and helpful to, for new people coming in, and also to bring more efficiency and increase the reputation of the industry.
Thanks for sharing that with us. I mean, just like everyone else who found themselves in the Web3 space, it's either they heard from a friend, or in my own case, I was curious enough to want to find out what it was about. But everyone has their own story and how they got into this space. So thanks for that. So I will like to ask you, like I mentioned earlier, there are challenges for people looking to transition into Web3. There are challenges for people already in the space and they're looking for their next opportunity. So what are some of the unique challenges people face when trying to build their personal brand and also find work in the Web3 crypto sector compared to traditional industries?
Yeah, so I think, one of the very first things, at least when I was starting, right, it was actually quite difficult to find different types of resources to understand exactly what the technology did, and how, even to figure out where the companies are. So I guess, I think the big challenges is one, it was like educational resources, right? And because there's such a broad, like nowadays, there's such a big, breadth of educational resources, but it's very challenging knowing where to start because there's so many areas in Web3. And then I think it's also navigating what type of businesses, what type of companies exist in Web3. It's not, a lot of these things are new applications, or maybe they're Web2 applications becoming Web3. So I think compared to traditional industries that, like banking, marketing, we're entering a phase of like decentralized businesses or open source businesses. And I think this is something where it requires a lot of personal research and like interest from if you're like looking for a job in that space. In terms of your personal brand, I think it's extremely important that you highlight something that is something you're actually interested in, and kind of find a project for you that fits your branding, because like I said, there's so many different ones, and I think finding a project that matches your personal brand and a community that matches your personal brand is a great way to get started.
All right. So thanks for sharing that with us. Just like many other people that found their way in the Web3 space. So they heard from a friend just like you, others out of curiosity like I did. Everyone just found themselves in the Web3 space, either by chance or by curiosity, one way or the other. So thanks for sharing your personal journey into the Web3 space with us. So that brings me to my second question. What are some of the unique challenges people face when trying to build their personal brand and find work in the Web3 crypto sector compared to traditional industries?
Yeah, so I think the crypto space is very wide and diverse. Even just an inch of curiosity ends up leading to miles, right, of information. So I think whenever you're developing your personal brand, it's really important to find some type of niche that matches who you are as a person. So I think that, finding a particular niche in the crypto space, whether it's a community or specific type of product that you like, I think, you should, really focus on one area first, to start to develop your personal brand, and you can quickly then become an expert in that niche. I also think it's really important in your, I guess, compared to traditional industries, to also be part of a community. So I think, getting involved in a diverse set of communities, or just like committing to a few communities and being a contributor, is also very important for you to develop your personal brand and then also find work within that community.
Awesome. So let's talk about the concept of creating a universal identity using credentials. And I am actually curious to learn more about that, because for to most people, they really want to understand, what does universal identity mean? What does using credentials for universal identity, what does it mean? And also, can you explain how it's going to work and the benefits that it provides?
Yeah. So, what we're referring to in terms of universal identity, or this, borderless identity, we're referring to more your work experience than your work identity. We know that the world is, after COVID-19, I think everyone knows how easy it is to work online and work with people from different countries, work in a very global nature across different time zones. But a lot of the time, that work experience, right, that you develop globally, might be recognized if you're in Singapore and working, in Japan with a Japanese company, but we're not really tracking, all of your, I guess, global work experience. So today we're trying to bring this universal identity that goes across multiple platforms, different multiple governments, right? Because some ways, you might be unofficially paid in stable coins from, say, a French company, and that might not get recognized if you're located in Singapore or Asia. So we're trying to really blend your work experience, that wherever the company is, doesn't necessarily matter, but what you do and what your reputation is what you can build with this, with your credentials. So we're trying to develop this, credentialing process that is based solely on, work that you do, not just that it's, recognized by different locations all in different places, but to make you own your universal work identity. And I think the benefits of this is that, today, if you're, say, going to your bank and saying, I would like to get a housing loan, but you don't necessarily have like work experience specifically in that country where that bank is located, they might turn you down for a loan or make it extremely difficult for you to bring all of the paperwork, tied to your income, your bank information, your work experience in different places. So we're trying to make it, one step, instant access where you could get approved to get a loan based on your work identity and your reputation, or also be able to get like instantly approved for different types of services to like work and live somewhere. Maybe you want a visa to be able to work in Japan, but you're not working for traditional companies, or you're working for lots of Web3 projects. Might be a little bit difficult to prove your income or prove who you are, but we're trying to make it easier, like building your identity with these credentials so that you can more quickly access services. Yep.
Wow. It sounds like a thing of comfort while also offering security. I mean, it's like having the best of both worlds, if you ask me. So that's cool. At least now I know what universal identity, what it means, and what it also means using credentials. So thanks for explaining that to us. And I would also like to ask, in the Web3 space, there are several misconceptions about how it works. So many people have their own idea of how things are supposed to be, what is it supposed to be, and how things are working. So I will like to clear some common misconceptions. So that's what is going to inspire my next question. So what are some common misconceptions people have about the types of roles and opportunities available in Web3?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people might have a misconception that it's, things are defined already, right? But, defined, or that there's maybe a set way of doing things. But I think the truth is that this industry is still very early, and there's still like room for change and room for creativity to do things differently. So, some of the roles and opportunities in the space, I think it's, you might think that you're signing up for one role, but you might end up having to cover different areas. So I think you have to be able to be carrying multiple hats, right? Which might be a common misconception that, it's already highly specialized, the industry is already developed. But I think that, you still need to be able to touch different areas, or, help out in different areas, because a lot of these are, still startups in a new industry. And I think another thing is people have a misconception that, maybe that the title might matter and whatever like this. But I think the Web3 space is very flat. And I think a lot of the time it's more about, basically doing work up front to really like prove yourself, and then within the community before you can, that's kind of seen more as respect, I would say, maybe compared to traditional roles.
Yeah, and there's also this funny misconception people have about the Web3 space, that once they join, they start making money immediately. They start making money the next day. And I've heard asked me that person like, oh yeah, I heard that you Web3 guys, you guys are rich. I'm like, wait, what? If Yeah, well, so people might be rich, but then I'm still waiting to get the rich thing you guys are talking about. So that's another one I also like to add that, yeah, Web3 has the money and people are making the money, but then don't just think that when you join the space today, you're going to cash out the next day. I think we have misconception you guys need to know about, and we're just clearing the air about some of these common misconceptions you guys have about working in the Web3 space. And thanks, Marisa, for clearing that for that. Yeah, that's about who misconceptions they have about working in.
You have to pay it forward, right? Before you can kind of get rewarded. It's kind of expected that you might have to, do some, tough, roll up your sleeves. It doesn't matter what you did before, right? You're starting fresh when you join Web3 from the zero.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's one step. One step. Okay, so still talking about newbies who just recently joined or who are looking to join the Web3 space. What advice will you give to them? Or what advice will you give to someone who is looking around starting to build up their professional profile and reputation in the ecosystem? Because you mentioned earlier that if you are coming into the space, you have to start afresh. You have to start learning new things. You have to you have to unlearn the old things and start learning new things about the space. But someone who is looking to build like a professional reputation and trying to build it from the ground up, what advice will you give to someone like that?
Yeah. So I think really the easiest way to get started, right, is I always tell people it's best to like start, getting different types of news sources, right? So I start subscribing to newsletters, reading news to kind of, dip your toes to know what people are talking about, right, in the different channels. Things like, the CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, or, certain influencers have their own newsletters. So I recommend first, like, starting to become aware because things in this space are also changing very rapidly and quickly every day, and new things are coming. So it's something that already you need to get into the habit is of, I think, reading the news every day and knowing what's going on. So that's the first thing, I think, for building up your professional profile and your knowledge. And then the second thing I always recommend is to get involved in a project or community that's interesting to you. So, whether that's like a trading community or an artist community of NFTs, I recommend, getting involved in an online community, but then also, starting to attend some like local meetups in your city or area if they have some events. So, these types of things start to show, your interest in the space to start building up your professional profile about what you're interested in. You can also see what's out there in the ecosystem. And I think, one of the most exciting or promising ways to, about reputation identities is that, these kinds of things a lot of the time are also like, there's usually some kind of digital twin attached to the community. And so I think, that's also something that you can showcase, whether, you join an NFT community and you set your profile picture as that NFT. But I think that there's some exciting things that you can do to start to build up your reputation in the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And also add to when I also joined the Web3 space, CoinDesk and Cointelegraph were my best friends. So that is where I was able to get information. I was able to read about updates in the space. And then after a while, I started writing on Medium, started sharing my knowledge. I started a LinkedIn newsletter also to share my knowledge and also just everything that I've learned basically. And it actually did cement it actually did give me my own footing in the space because gradually people knew me as the Web3 girl and people knew me as the Web3 marketing lady on LinkedIn and on Medium too. So for anyone who's also starting, just like Marisa said, look at all the mentioned platforms, CoinDesk, Cointelegrams, that like other ones too that are really helpful. And it's one thing for you to study these things, also another thing for you to take action.
Yes,
And
yes.
don't just keep consuming. Also share what you've learned. You'll be surprised. You can just start learning today. And there's someone that is even thinking of getting into the space that will learn from you. And the market is slowly picking up, as we all know it. So it might be you sharing your knowledge that will land you in the face of your next recruiter or the next hiring manager, or yeah, where you make your plenty money in the Web3 space. So basically, to sell your reputation in this space, just learn as much as you can. Always stay updated and just keep doing your own thing. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, and I think, like I mentioned, the communities, right? I think becoming an active member in a community, whether it's, in-person events and like volunteering to organize those in-person events, or also just joining some online communities or Discord channels, Telegram groups, to start, sharing knowledge or, helping out in a project is another way to, dip your toes and start developing your professional profile.
Yes, that's right. So let's talk about Joba Network. Mm. So how can platforms like Joba Network empower more equitable access to opportunities in Web3 compared to traditional models?
Yeah, so I think platforms like Joba, right? We are having you sign in with your wallet address, right? When you sign in with your wallet address at the, first questions that we ask is if you want to be anonymous or you'd like to use your real name for sign up. So unlike traditional platforms that force you to use your real name, you can use your pseudonym, your nickname, whatever you like, right, to sign up to Joba as anonymous. And this is highly beneficial in, enabling equitable access because you start to develop your identity as, anonymous. And as you're anonymous, people don't know where you're from. They don't know, what languages you speak, right? So I think it's solely based on your merit and your experience. And platforms like Joba, we are focusing on, your work credentials. So it's solely based on, how many contracts did you complete? How many jobs did you do on Joba? How much did you get paid? Like what range did you get paid in? Did you in this type of information today, you might find on, your resume, or whenever you put your resume through an application process, you might not ever hear back from them, or, you might not have created your resume in the right format that the computers want to read resumes. So we believe credential-based hiring is the future. And we think that credentials, we're starting with work, but also like skills-based credentials are much better than traditional models. And also, we are able to basically have, real-time notifications on your application. So anytime that you submit a proposal on Joba, you can also subscribe to a Telegram bot that will give you updates like, were you accepted? Were you rejected? Did the job close? So the idea of bringing on a bot to your favorite messaging service like Telegram, we think that this is better than traditional models, which force you to like log in every time. Or if you drop your resume across all these different websites, you never hear back from a lot of these companies. So we're trying to make it at least, you get a yes or no, as soon as possible. And we're also trying to, make it more fair because it's based on your credentials and actual experience, as opposed to, what university did you go to, or like, who do you know, right? So we're trying to bring it to be a more meritocratic, equitable way to work. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. But that sounds cool already. So, as a follow-up question to what you just said, I would like to know from your own point of view, what does the future of work look like in Web3? Do you think it will be more remote, decentralized, or gig-based?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all three of those. I think that remote is already there. I think like majority of work in Web3 gives you options to be remote. And I do think that we're going to see more and more decentralization because, there's less funding that's going on across the Web3 space right now, right? So when there's, less funding that's going towards like protocols, I think people have to be a lot more selective about where they're spending their money, and companies need to cost save. So I think they're going to have to rely on more decentralized ways of like, completing different projects and gigs. So, we believe that the future is like also gig based, that you focus, during a bull market, right? You need to hire a bunch of people to quickly, increase visibility of your platform. But then whenever it's a bear market, you also need to quickly be able to downsize. So we think that more project based, like gig based work is the future for Web3, because of the market being so volatile. And we think this is the best way for like businesses to flourish is by hiring more project based, contract based workers, to just work on a specific part of the project and move on to their next gig.
Sounds cool. I mean, I've actually always been curious on how the future of work works in Web3, because as we know, the gig economy is picking up, and everyone at one point has been a freelancer, and most people are looking for more full-time opportunities. More people are looking for Some people are looking for part-time opportunities, and some people just want to do all three. They have superpowers like that. Yeah, so I think Web3 is that place that is ready to accommodate everyone, regardless of what they want, regardless of the choice of how they want to work on the space. And I particularly like one thing you mentioned when you were talking about how Juba works, that it's the this thing of applying for so many jobs and not getting responses back. That's one of the things that makes a lot of job seekers, that makes them so sad, because ghosting job seekers is, I think, it's like one of the top crimes you can ever commit in the world. Yes, because you apply for so many jobs and nobody's responding to you, and then you're just left in the dark wondering, did I do something wrong? Is my resume not up to par, or something like that? I like that Joba is here to change all that, and then give put job seekers, that is job seekers, creatives, and people who are looking to have their place in the space, giving them a voice, giving them an opportunity. That's highly commendable. So thank you. And thanks for putting, on behalf of all job seekers in the world, on behalf of all job seekers in Web3, we say a big thank you to you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what you said about like accommodating for all types, right? Because I think even people that are working full time these days still want to pick up like a side hustle or another gig. Like, everyone these days like wants to make more money or have multiple sources of income, right? And I think that Web3 is one of those places that can accommodate it. Like you said, it's not going to happen overnight where you just like instantly are gonna, make money. You need to make the investment and the time. But you think that there are many ways that you're able to find your way in working in Web3.
Yes, that's true. Right. So let's talk about queues and roles in the Web3 ecosystem. So what are the most in-demand skills or roles within Web3 companies and projects right now? What roles do you think people are looking out for? Are they looking for more technical positions? Are they looking to skill people into technical positions or not technical positions? And how can people position themselves to be competitive applicants for these jobs?
Yeah. So right now, I think we are seeing a lot of like cybersecurity related roles in Web3. So a lot of security companies, right, to ensure the safety and the security of the assets, like that's always going to be something very important. And I see more and more of those types of jobs popping up right now. I think that people can always be taking like more courses to like learn more about these technical areas. And then of course, like Solidity is also like always in demand, smart contract development. But these days, now that with AI tools, we even have like, AI, like smart contract, like modularized building. So I think that everyone should grow familiar, right, with what type of new AI tools are out there and no code tools that are out there that at least you can learn how to create something. I created the starts of like a Telegram bot with no code knowledge at all. So I think if you take a little bit of time to learn about these no code tools, I think that's a very valuable skill because the nature of Web3 cryptocurrency cryptography is very technical. So learning some of these no code tools will always be in demand to have some amount of knowledge. As I mentioned, cybersecurity. And I think, to remain applicant the way, to remain competitive amongst the pool of applicants, I think the community involvement is, highly important. The ability to, be responsive and answer questions in chat, start from, just, listening and, understanding some, community or product and then, being responsive to answer other people's questions and becoming an expert in one area, I think will help you, position yourself to be more competitive. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, I'm curious. Learning no code tools, it's a good thing. But do you think for someone like me and for many others who are in marketing or more technical positions, you think it's also important for us to also learn how to use these no code tools?
Totally, totally. I think that marketing is always evolving, right? And I think there's a lot of marketing automation tools, right, that are coming out that are also no code and marketing beyond just like content creation, right? I think is actually a lot of data analysis and there's like Google Analytics, um, I guess the how to get attention, right, through different audiences. I think marketing can also become a very like technical skill set to become a digital marketer. So I definitely think it's important to maybe learn how to make some bots or learn how to do some marketing automation techniques with some of these no code tools.
Mm. Awesome. Thanks for that. So, where do you see the biggest untapped potential when it comes to bringing new creatives, talents, and ideas into Web3?
Yeah, so I see the two biggest regions, I guess, as kind of Southeast Asia and Africa, right? So we've been seeing a lot of like young and ambitious people coming on board who are creative and eager to learn, eager to start working in the space. And I think, yeah, I mean, these are just like two regions in particular, but I think I'm seeing, in Vietnam, we're seeing a lot of like developers coming on board. In Thailand, we see a lot of artists and creatives that are kind of learning UI UX. Indonesia, we have both like development plus, creatives across the board. Also seeing a lot in Nigeria. So we really see like Southeast Asia and Africa, these, countries, people that are still using mobile and, the increasing amount of people using mobile and coming on board are the places of untapped potential, in my opinion. And that's kind of the two areas we're focusing on most for Joba too.
Okay, sure. Well, I can't speak up for Asia, but I can speak for Africa, especially Nigeria, because that's where I'm from. No, I've seen lots of people coming into the Web3 space, lots of young people with passion, and then they tell you they have ideas, they want to build amazing things in the Web3 space and so on and so forth. And then I think, yeah, you're right. There are lots of potential here. And then shout out to people who are taking their time to create these awesome communities, to bring in new people and teach them about the crypto space and the Web3 space. And they're also doing a good job telling them that the blockchain and Web3 space goes beyond trading crypto. It goes beyond dealing with exchanging your coins or token, way much more than that. You can actually build something sustainable in this space. And so far so good. I think it's yielding results. yielding result because we have young people who already have that mindset that they are set how to change how things work in the Web3 space, especially for Africa. And then, well, we can only wait to see how this will turn out. But I'm positive that we have amazing potentials in Africa, in Nigeria, that I can speak of. Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about the future. Like everything we work through right now is the future. Mainstream adoption, we are waiting on the future. Whatever is going to happen, whatever transformative things going to happen in the Web3 space, we're waiting for the future. So let's talk about the future in Web3 when it comes to hiring.
Yeah.
What does the future hiring landscape look like in Web3? Do you think human resources and staffing functions will evolve as the blockchain technology advances?
Definitely. Today I think human resources are just, looking at a resume, right? But I very much think that like your on-chain identity, your on-chain reputation is going to become more and more important as we evolve and as like, not just blockchain evolves, but as more people are, creating on-chain activities without even knowing it. So that's where we think kind of this like skills-based hiring will come into place, where it'll be based on skills. It'll be based on your actual like previous work experience with those credentials that we're highlighting. And then finally, I think we also see the future evolving with like AI recruitment, right? I think people are, using AI to be able to search and find people a lot more quickly on the internet. And they're going to need to search with these AIs through good, platforms that have these credentials. So I think that, HR and staffing will evolve in this direction. And I also think that more and more people want to be their boss, right? Everyone wants to be their own boss. Everyone wants to manage themselves. So I think that human resources and these staffing functions will also evolve into helping people maybe manage their own business and still be able to work with a company, or help people be able to support more like self-employed or contractor based hiring. So I think that's where we see the future is going as more blockchain technology also advances.
Okay. So yeah, I'm all for the evolving technology, but do you think that at a point we are not going to have the human resources again? So it's now going to be AI resources. Do you think at a point in time it's going to be that way?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they're going to be, using more and more AI tools, and for you to be well positioned for these, we're going to have to create more of this universal identity, which we talked about earlier, and making sure that you don't miss the boat, right? Today, if you put today, like a certain resume format will get more reviews within a hiring system. But, the future could be more based on this like universal identity, credential based. So we think that type of recruitment will become more prevalent and common.
Awesome. Right now, we can only keep our fingers crossed and hope for how things are going to turn out. Well, I'm hopeful it turns out to be positive and we get to use all this new technology for something great and something awesome. So, thank you so much, Marisa, for coming to our Three Quick Bites podcast today and sharing your insights and ideas of the future of hiring and job opportunities in Web3. As a tech for talking about Joba Network. It was a great time learning from you. And we look forward to having you on the show again sometime soon to have you come talk about interesting things in this space. We hope you will honor our invitation when we reach out to you.
Yeah, would love to. And thank you so much for hosting this wonderful podcast. Would love to, feel free to reach out or contact us, join our communities. We're always available. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And lastly, I'd like to ask that for listeners who are listening to this, if they want to sign up on Joba Network, is it available to the public now, or do they have to join the wait list?
It is available to the public now, but you'll have to join with an invite code. So, we'd recommend you to use the invite code JOBA internal, all caps, when signing up. So that way we know that you can.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And that wraps up today's episode of the Web3 Quick Buy podcast. Big thanks to our guests for sharing our invaluable insights and knowledge with us today. And we hope you enjoyed the discussion. If you have any feedback or questions, please reach out on social media or send us an email at web3quickbites@gmail.com. And thanks again to our guests for joining us. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more exciting content. So be sure to subscribe and tune in. See you next week. Bye.